guys, Brian here, Team Mana Beast, doing a deck profile on my Dragonic Descendant version 2, slightly updated here with set 14, and it's got a lot of changes, so I kind of want to go over it a little bit. So, starting off with the starting Vanguard, I still run Strike Dagger Dragon, which I still can't say correctly. It is the superior ride for the deck. I still love it. I still think it is one of the best cards in the game, not only for the ability it gives you, but also for the 2s and 1s it gives you as well. That are also very useful beyond the vanilla, and we'll kind of go into that, which we have before in the video, but I feel this works great. The effect of this card is, put this unit in your soul. Essentially you choose 2 cards. One is the grade 1 Hyson, and if you have Zuiton on the Vanguard, grade 2, you can superior ride into Descendant, which this combos really well into a lot of other combos with set 14 stuff, and I'll kind of show you how that goes as we go along the way. So let's start with our grade 3 lineup. I'm going to run 1, 2, 3, 4. Dragonic Descendant. Now I know a lot of people, even in superior builds, will run less of them. I personally love it at 4. I want to see it as much as possible. It's my ender. This deck still centers around Dragonic Descendant, and I have it as much as possible, especially with the special boosters. I still think it's a phenomenal card, and I just want to see it. Its effect is, of course, at limit break 4, choose 3 cards of the Eradicator's card name, discard them. Essentially, if this attack doesn't hit, you can discard 3, stand it back up, and it gets a crit until the end of turn. It can only be used once, of course. Its other ability is counterblast 2 cards of the Eradicator's card name, and it gets +5 until the end of turn. So this is a great push on Break Ride, a good push from there at 4 damage, just to pressure some more cards or let you hit them with that crit possibly. And I still think it's a really amazing card. It has been bumped up back to 4 in Japan now that some of the meta has changed, but I still think it's just a deadly and an amazing card to have in the deck. The other grade 3s I'm going to run, I am running 1 of Eradicator Dragonic Dragon, and only 1. I'm kind of looking at a lot of my options, and you'll see this deck too. This deck is still, I would say, a little bit of a work in progress, because it's good, but there's still some things I want to work on. This is the original Narukami Break Ride. Of course, when this hits and Break Ride's over it, I choose an opponent's front row. My opponent's rear guard. Yeah, I choose one of my opponent's rear guard's front row, retire it, and get plus 10k. And then when this has the number of cards in the opponent's damage zone is 3 or more, this gets plus 2,000. So it's a really good card as far as the attack power. However, I prefer to run 1, 2, 3 of Ignition Dragon, which I feel is the superior Break Ride, especially in this deck. And again, I'll tell you why it is later. The first effect is, it's a Break Ride. When another unit rides over this at level break 4, counterblast 1, your opponent chooses 2 rear guards. Now this is very important, and I think a much better option in my opinion than Vanguard. In fact, why I'm thinking of upping it to just 4 Ignition Dragons. A couple of reasons. A lot of times, especially if your opponent's playing the game with you, they may not have a full front row. In fact, they may not even have their field fully set up. A lot of decks now want to set up with rear guards that are important. So even though they have to choose, they're still losing 2 rear guards, and they can be back row as well. Now they have to choose them, but they can be back row as well, which also helps you get more effects off. It's a counterblast 1 to retire 2, which is a stupid good effect. And anything on your opponent's field is going to give them advantage. So for a Break Ride, you neg them 2 and give yourself plus 10. It's really awesome. It works really great with a lot of these other cards. Of course, this one is the same as Valiant Sword. When it attacks, if the number of rear guards your opponent has is more than your opponent's, this gets plus 2. So it's a little different than Valiant's, but you get the same kind of effect, plus 2, if you have more rear guards, which usually, especially on Break Ride turn, you're going to have. Alright, let's move on to the grade 2s. We're going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, Zuiton. Now this is part of the reason that I really feel that the superior ride chain still is effective in this meta. Because Zuiton, his effect, of course, is when this hits a Vanguard, if I Vanguard with the Eradicator's card name, I can unflip a damage and soul charge 1. Now previously, the only really use for this card in a Descendant build was for a Soul Blast to hit big numbers with Descendant with the special booster. And then, of course, the only counterblasting that was really done was possibly by, you could do it with a few other cards, like if you were doing a, Really, the only thing I know that was done with this was for the E-Special Counterblast for Descendant, which is Counterblast 2, which by that time is in-game, and a lot of these attacks aren't going to go through. So this card, I rarely hit with it to get the effects off I needed to. Usually I would just soul charge with it. It was kind of useless. In this deck, however, with the counterblasting that's done in it, with the other grade 2s that we'll go over, this card is super effective. Unflipping damage from Ignition Dragon, super effective. Unflipping damage from other cards we're going to go over, super effective. So that's why I still think at 4 it's great, and it really works well with the next 2 I'm going to go over here, which is Eradicator Rinse Force Dragon. This is an amazing card in a Superior Ride build. Number 1, just like I talked about for Zuiton, because you can unflip damage early when it counts. Its effect is when a grade 3 with Eradicator and its card name is placed on Vanguard, you pay the cost. If you do, your opponent chooses one of his rear guards and retires it. Now again, they do choose it, but that's okay because especially early game, you're okay with them choosing because usually that's going to be a booster, possibly an important 0. I mean, a lot of times, especially early game, when it's just you and Vanguard going back and forth, Vanguard boosted, back and forth with your opponent, they usually don't have anything else, and usually this is going to retire their booster behind their Vanguard. The other thing that this works amazingly well with is, for instance, let's just say you ride Zuiton, okay? Now, you put this on rear guard after you've ridden Zuiton. And then you do the Superior Ride chain, calling a Descendant out onto the field. And because it was placed onto Vanguard, this effect goes off, Counterblast and retire something. So this combo here is really, really amazingly good. And it puts pressure early game, it hurts them early game, and it gets you to grade 3. So this turn here, when you Superior Ride with a Rinse on the rear guard, is stupid good. And then you still have this to attack with early game if it's a turn 2. So that's why I personally run 3 of them, because I just think it's an amazing card. And it even helps late game when you start retiring with cards like Ignition Dragon. I mean, really, the best part about it is that you can do it multiple times. You know, you can keep break riding over and over and over again and just keep retiring stuff, and it is really, really effective. So great card, got to happen. I run 1, 2, 3 of the 12k attacker, Spark Rain Dragon. 9k generic. If I got a Eradicator Vanguard, is a 12k attacker. It is what it is, 12k. And then I run 1 Cho-Oh. Again, this is where the deck is being experimented with. I may run more. The only reason I run Cho-Oh, in all honesty, is to possibly retire some annoying rear guards. Also, if this is still on the field, if I don't Superior Ride, it's good to use it as bait, because I can just put this into Soul, pop something off, and then this useless 5k booster is actually useful for something. I'm thinking of upping it, but again, I like my Rinse Dragons, I like everything else I've gotten it, so I haven't found a place to get rid of it, so still in the process. Alright, let's move on here to grade 1s. We're going to run 1, 2, 3, 4 Wyvern Gold Perfect Guards. You know how it goes. Perfect Guards, Eradicator Special, big numbers, block it, don't die. The next ones I run, because we are running the Superior Ride chain, are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 Hyson. This is part of the Superior Ride chain, of course, if it's on the rear guard and you have Zuiton on the Vanguard with the 0, put it all in Soul, get yourself a Descendant. But the also bonus thing, which I always still love, is this also acts as a special booster for Descendant. So it just doesn't become a useless rear guard. It can be very useful to you towards the end game to make your rear guard Descendants hit for big numbers. The other grade 1s I run, which I definitely up the count, still experimenting, is 4 Shuki. Now I may put this down to 3, I don't know, but here's where and why I'm running more of this card. Kind of explain the reasoning behind it. Before, with this card, it was very situational, because when you broke road and you retired 1, number 1, you may not retire anything. They may not have anything in the front row. Give it a 10k boost, and you had to have either your 12k attackers or your 11ks. And at that point, especially late game, you may have 7 of those left over, so there's very few cards in your deck that could boost this. However, with cards like Ignition Dragon allowing you to retire 2, this card becomes a 13k booster, which in turn then allows just your 9ks here to be boosted by it and hit for 21. Also, boosted by your 11s, it allows you to hit for 24 and hit cross rides. That's why I think this card has become much more clutch. Because of Ignition Dragon, because of cross rides, because of the abilities that now your 9s are more flexible to hit for 21, this card I run at 4. However, I may change this up. I'm still working on it. Yeah, I like it so far. I want to see this card as much as possible and just keep it out there. So I run 4 of it. Now the other one I run, there's a couple other options. I am using this so far, and I really, really like it. This is Dragon Dancer Agatha. Now this card to me, there was the other grade 1 I was running where essentially if I put a grade 3 on the Vanguard circle, I put it in a soul and retire something else. But that's a 1-for-1, and this is a 7k booster. I don't like doing 1-for-1s. I only like doing for 1-for-1s if it's a Choho and I can, get rid of just a 5k. This card, however, is when one of your opponent's rear guards is put in the drop zone by a card's effect, I get to choose another unit if I Soul Blast one and give it +3. So again, we talked about Zuiton, talked about Soul Charging, now we're using that more. We're not just using the Soul necessarily for the Soul Blast for Descendant Special Booster, now the Soul is actually useful. So this card is just like Shuki, except a little different. Except I can call it to another rearguard, or even another unit, and give it +3. So it gives me more flexibility. It's almost like I got 6 Shukis in the deck, except this one now allows me to have a little bit more flexibility. I can put it to a rearguard if I have a lone rearguard. So let's say I've got this in the background, I've got a lone rearguard, and I want to hit a cross ride. Cool, I'll just pump that up to a 14k if it's 11k attacker, or a 15k if it's a 12k attacker. To me, this card is really good. It's a 7k booster by itself, and it just does good things. So I put that in at 2. Alright, moving on to triggers here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 of the Eradicator heals, because, 4 heals is a thing. We're then going to run on to 1, 2, 3, 4 of the Pollux crit, and then 1, 2, 3 the Carbuncle crit, which then, of course, means we're going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 draws. I've really gone back and forth on this. Because I discard with Descendant skill, I really need to gain advantage. I generate crit a lot. I generate pressure by itself. I just need some hand advantage. So the 5/7 works out a lot better for me. I like it just for the fact that I get a little more hand. Narukamis don't really generate any hand advantage for themselves besides when you retire rear guards. So I really want to maintain that hand advantage. So I've gone up to 5 draws instead of 4, 8. And that's really the deck profile as it is. It's updated. I love this deck even more because I think it's more versatile. Like I said, with all the new cards and all the new support, it works a lot better. It's not so vanilla, and I have a lot more options. So, of course, as always, rate, comment, subscribe, share this. What do you think of it? What would you change? And as always, we'll see you guys next time.